All right, we are live, the AllStar MMA live show. We are here to recap UFC Vegas 72, Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. It was an interesting fight, man, and the way it played out. Entering the fight, Song Yadong, he was the underdog, and Ricky Simone, he was the favorite. And a lot of people felt like Simone was going to go in there and be able to wrestle him, and that was not the case. Before we get into what my co-hosts believe or think of the fight, make sure you guys go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Make your picks on the app. The app is running strong with the community, and join the community, man, and do your thing against each other. So, Sicko, let's start with you, man. What'd you think of how the fight played out? How Song Yadong came out? What'd you think of his performance?
Surprised that he just looked to be a cut above Simone. Like I didn't expect him to just look like he was on a different level. I think that's probably the best I've ever seen him, to be honest. And I'm saying that with him looking really good against Sanhagen. Obviously, we know the stoppage happened. Sanhagen had success like he always does. But even in that fight, I was like, man, Song's really putting it together. And in this fight, I was like, dude, blown away by his performance. Like I said, the best performance I've seen. And I don't know if it had to do with Simone being the perfect partner for him. Maybe that style, what he brings to the table, or the things that he lacks is just a perfect, uh, the perfect storm for Song Yadong. But it also might be just because he's 25 years old and he's finally coming to his own. And we remember him at 22 and 23, which now he's 25. He's barely starting to enter his prime. And if this is the peak of it, or this is the start of it, that peak of it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this on the screen real quick for you guys to look at to marvel on. Let me see this. All right, here we go. All right, so right here. So these are the statistics, right, from the fight. We had Song Yadong with 2 knockdowns. He landed 110 strikes to 64 for Simone, 105 significant strikes to 60 significant for Simone, 55 headshots, 27 body shots to 9 only by Simone, and the leg kicks as well. Song Yadong 23-3, and the takedowns were on Simone's side, but that was really early in the fight, right? Like in the first round, a lot of people were on the fence. Some people said that they felt like Song Yadong won that first round. I thought Simone edged it out a little bit, you know what I mean? Because he did mix in the grappling, but I feel like Simone hit a wall in the second round. Like he just hit the wall. He just wasn't. He knew he wasn't going to be able to wrestle with Song, and like he didn't have a plan B. J Spec, what do you think? Do you think that's what happened? Is like he just didn't have a plan B, and whatever he thought it was going to work just didn't work.
I think that no, I think he ran out of a plan D. I think he tried to strike with him, thought thought that wasn't working. Then he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna wrestle." That wasn't really working. Um, so maybe a plan C, right? So I would jump all the way to D. But you know what I'm saying is, I think he just found a guy who mirrors him in a lot of his strengths areas. Obviously, the two different fighters, two different styles. But when you talk about strength departments, like what they're really good at, they're kind of similar in a lot of departments. So I just, Ricky just ran into a dude on his night on fire. Ricky's a great fighter. Um, I picked I picked Song to win, but I was very reserved. And I also said during our watch party with Sicko and I said, like, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky wins this. Like, this is not one of those where I think anybody's super, super confident on. But man, I don't know what the wall thing. I guess I'll agree with that. I think he just hit, like, yeah, a wall. You know what? I like that now that I think about it and say it a few times in my own head, because he just ran out of options and he's too damn tough to make it look bad, right? He's too skilled to look just totally destroyed. Like, I agree with what Sicko said earlier about looking at class above, or looking a level above. But at no point was Ricky just like we're like, oh, what the fuck's going on, until obviously, until the end. But yeah, I mean, the conclusion be what it may, the better, clearer, better fighter of the night won, and totally happy with it. And it's one of those feuds that you also go to, like, with Ricky, like, great fight, bro. Like, I know this goes on an L on your permanent professional record, but not a L to anyone who watched it. Nobody who watched this fight is going to take that as an L for Ricky. That was a good fight, solid fight. Just Song might be, what's the word? Sickle just brought up. He's just entering his prime, right? Like, we could see the light starting to go full intensity on this fighter right before our very eyes right now.
Song, he's only 25, so I don't know if he's in his prime yet, but you never know when the prime is going to come in a fighter. But he did look sharp. I mean, he did look really good on the feet. His defensive wrestling was looking, solid. I mean, his speed, just everything was flowing for him, and he was very patient. And I think that was important in this fight. He knew he had 5 rounds. He knew he had the cardio to go all 5 rounds. And I think once he stepped into that second round, he kind of knew, like, yo, I'm not even gonna have to use too much effort to wrestle this guy. Like, I know what to do when he grabs my hips. Like, it's gonna be pretty, I'm not gonna say easy, but I understand. And training over at Team Alpha Male and actually having your coach being a guy that already beat Ricky Simone, it's kind of a trip, right? Like
we saw it. The game plan was perfect. You said it yourself about the being patient. That's probably the best part of the fight for me, or the best part of his game plan. It was patience with pressure. That's hard to do. It's hard to stay patient and still be on the front foot, or still be moving forward, marching somebody down. And he was able to do that. Usually we see Ricky just pushing forward, putting the pace on people, chaining wrestling together. And this time we didn't. Like, Ricky was on his back foot, and you can see that was a game plan. Like, hey, we can't let this dude walk you down. Can't let your back be against the fence. You have to pressure. So to be able to pressure and still stay patient while pressuring, that's when you start seeing guys like reach that next level.
That's the funny part that didn't get brought up during the watch party. Was just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about legacy, right? Like legacy, lineage, and who you're from and all that. That actually didn't. That's a good storyline that just really kind of went, under the radar, so to speak. Like, nobody really talked too much about the whole Uriah triangle, situation that was just previously mentioned. So I just thought that was worth talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't think we heard about it until like the actual fight was over with, I believe. I didn't
saw Uriah in there.
Yeah, like back in the day.
It's Uriah.
Yeah, like back in the day, this would have been like a big deal. Like, guy beats all the guy at the gym. Is he going to go 2-0 against the same gym, or 0-2, excuse me, at the same gym? Like, back in the day, that's a story, but times have changed.
Oh, definitely times has changed. If you're watching, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit the like, share if you can. If you have any opinion about the main event, about how Ricky Simone performed, about how Song Yadong performed, put it in the comments. We'll throw it on the screen. Let's get some people on here. Bamshi, Manny, good day, guys. Good, what's up, man? He says Song was super sharp, definitely super sharp. Preston, Song that good, or is Simone really not that good compared to his ranking? Yeah, I believe Song was ranked higher than Simone, but Simone was the favorite, right? It was a weird situation right there. Manny says he looked cautious. Song's speed kept him at bay. Definitely. Preston also adding Song speed and cardio were levels above Simone. And again, Bamshi says that's the key. Stayed on Ricky and made him throw first. Well, it kind of reminds me of what is it? There was a storyline ahead of this fight after the weigh-ins, because Ricky Simone, he's super thick, right? Like, he's pretty big for the division. And I think Aljamain Sterling was the one that said that he's a weight bully. Like, he goes in there and he cuts a lot of weight and he kind of throws people around. Maybe that was something to it. Maybe Ricky Simone's not made for 5-round fights. You know what I mean? Like, he's a 3-round fighter. Like, there's certain guys that just can't last that long. You know what I mean? And sometimes they're not even a 2-round fighter. They're a 1-round fighter. And if they exert too much effort in the first round, they kind of fall off a cliff for the rest of the rounds. And maybe that's something you could look into as well from Simone's performance, is that he put a lot of effort into the first round. And was he hurt at the end of first round? Did he get knocked out, or was that the second round? He got
It
cracked
was
in one of those
later.
rounds, right?
It was a little bit later when he started getting cracked. Like right in the third is when I'm pretty sure the third round is when he got
Okay.
cracked real bad.
Well,
It was kind of chill the first round.
maybe this is something. It's a theory that he exerted a lot of effort, right? A lot of energy in that first round, and then he tried to pace himself because he kind of understood, like, oh shit, I might have to go all 5 rounds with this, and that actually helped Song Yadong because he was patient. He put the pressure on him and made him swing and miss a lot. You know what I mean? He swung and missed a lot, right? Like it was
Yeah.
the striking like gap, you saw it in this fight, and even the power. You know what I mean? The power, you saw Song crack him a bunch of times and mixing it up as well. You don't really see Simone mixing in kicks as much as Song did. If you look at the stats, like we put up earlier, 23 kicks landed compared to 3 kicks landed, and he only
That's
threw 3 kicks, 100% accuracy.
yeah, tip of the
Fudge
hat
the
to
numbers.
accuracy. Yeah.
Yeah, fudge
I mean,
the
just
numbers.
the diversity of the striking and just attacking each level, it just kept him. It just kept him at bay. When you're mixing up the striking like that, he just stayed.
Headbutt.
Manny said it. I forgot about that. He was knocked down, but it was the headbutt
Headbutt.
or the clash
The
of
clash
heads.
of heads.
The clash of heads in the first round. And maybe that was it too. Maybe that clash of heads really, shook up his brain. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
I mean,
But like there's a lot of
could be.
possibilities in that fight. But
I just think
what we
Song
know
was so
for
good. I don't want to take
yeah,
anything away from him. Like, he just looked sharp, man. I don't want
he
to.
did.
I don't want to say something was off with Ricky. I don't want it to take away from what Song Yadong did because he looked great and he was looking really good against Corey Sandhagen. Like when he was in there with Corey, I was like, man, this might be the best I've seen him, even though he lost. So when he
I-
came into this one, I was like, dude, he's starting to hit a different gear now.
You know what's weird and slightly off topic, but I'm just going to throw this in there is, the UFC allegedly changed, and I say allegedly because I guess it's a fact. I don't know why I said that, but the gloves to get rid of the poking of the eye situation that was a little bit of a problem in the league. Now they got a headbutting problem, in my opinion. The amount of head clashing that is causing significant impact on the outcome of a match is very high right now. It's I want to say it's almost higher. It's higher than the era where headbutts was legal. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like every week we come out of a fight of significance, just like this one, and there's a big fucking red light on it with this headbutt clash of head issue, and obviously it's a clash of heads. Headbutting is when you do it on purpose. So anyways, yeah, man, I don't know, UFC or the commissions or whatever. I don't know what the answer is. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here. I just think it needs to be said. Like the head clashing drama needs to slow the hell down. It's ruining fights.
All right, so now we got a situation here, right? With Song Yadong. What's next for him? Right? He's sitting at number 8 in the rankings. He just beat number 10. He called out, I believe, Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera for a rematch. I like the Marlon Vera fight, the rematch. I believe that was somewhat controversial, that matchup, and I think Song kind of understands it was controversial. And Marlon Vera sitting at number 5. You know what I mean? I think that's a good target. I don't think they're gonna give him Sean O'Malley, no matter what you want in that division. Sean O'Malley, he's gonna fight for the title, most
Too
likely.
dangerous for Sean. Too dangerous. No way. They're not going to risk that.
Exactly.
No way.
So, what do you guys think? What do you think? If you look at the rankings, you got Marab, who's sitting there like a I don't even know, like a dangling cherry for he doesn't know what he wants to do because his friend is the champion. You got Corey Sandhagen, who already beat Song. You got Peter Yan, Vera, Font, Cruz. Who do you put against Song Yadong? Let's start with you, J Spec.
I'm shooting for that Jan or Vera fight. Just because I think Vera would be the coolest one, but I know he just fought. And it's up to him if he wants to keep going. But yeah, Jan, I think Jan would be a good one for Peter because he's been fighting tough dudes, and I mean Song is a tough dude too, but it kind of gives you some clarity on how much Jan is left and or how good Song might be right now. So that's kind of tempting to me. And Vera, the Vera matchup, I don't think it needs to be discussed any much further. I think anybody would want to see that. There you go. That's my 2 picks.
Sicko, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, it's Cheeto, like easily. There's a storyline behind it. He won, but a lot of the public doesn't think he won. I think the majority of the public kind of thought Cheeto should get the nod in that one. Cheeto's been loud about it. He's been wanting that rematch. He's talked about it previously. Cheeto's been calling out Piotr Jan himself, but we know Cheeto. Cheeto's down to fight. Cheeto's down to fight whoever. He didn't take a whole lot of damage against Corey. No injuries, anything like that, setting him back. He wants to fight. Piotr would be great too. I just haven't seen Piotr like talking about a fight. I haven't seen him calling anyone out, which isn't really his thing. He's not like a big social media presence guy, but I just haven't seen much from him. I don't know where his headspace is. That fight I'm down with, but the Cheeto fight just makes perfect sense to me. Merab, Sandhagen, I feel like they should get a fight going. Sandhagen's been calling him out. He wants to fight him. Seems like nobody wants to fight Merab. So if you finally have somebody, that eliminates those two. So it's easy for me, Cheeto, for sure.
Yeah, Barab is in a shitty situation right here because the UFC obviously wants Sean O'Malley to fight the winner of Sterling and Henry Cejudo, and so basically Merab has to fight somebody. So I think what they're gonna do, this is my speculation, is that Merab's gonna end up fighting Corey Sandhagen on a fight night main event. They're gonna definitely put him in a main event somewhere with Corey Sandhagen. 5 rounds. That's a 5-round fight, right? You can't put 3 rounds on that. That's a 5-round fight right there. You gotta give them time to kill each other. I love to say that, right? You gotta give them time to kill each other. 3 rounds is not enough time, right? These guys. So you Song Yadong, yeah. I think that's the 2 best options there. Jan or Vera, right? Those guys are kind of like the more of the elder statesmen of the top 15, right? They've been around a little bit longer. They fought the who's who of the division. One's a former champion. I think Jan is probably the better fight to give Song. The reason why is because he is a former champion, and that sells better. That's a main event as well. That's a 5-round fight. Imagine that battle right there. Two strikers just going at it. And if you look at the rest of the division, Rob Font sitting there, he just coming off a big win against Adrian Yanez, and then Dominic Cruz. I don't think Dominic Cruz has a fight, and he hasn't fought in so long. I don't understand like why he's just sitting around in the rankings. They should put together Dominic Cruz against Rob Font. I think that would be a great fight. I think Rob Font deserves a fight like that, right? He just knocked off one of the hottest prospects in the division. I think you give him Dominic Cruz. I think that's a solid fight. We just made your jobs easy, UFC.
Done.
Take that advice, man.
Yeah,
I mean, that division's kind of easy to pair up, right? There's just so many guys that need fights, so many guys that we would all love to see fight each other. It's crazy that when you look at that top 10, yeah, there's a few that have fought each other, but there's still a lot of matchups that we haven't seen yet.
I just can't believe
versus Umar. That's the fight I think that they're gonna probably put together.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Merab, like what a weird place to be, dude. Like I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna ruin the very tiny window of opportunity that professional sports allows me to be at the peak of everything in my life, matching opportunity with chance, and you're just gonna be like, nah, we're friends. Can't fight for the belt because we're friends. Like, yeah, we're friends, and we can be friends right before the bell rings and right after the bell rings. And in between that shit, I'm trying to fucking knock your ass out. Like, that's crazy. This is a championship of the world. So I think Merab's a fool.
I could see him getting a title fight though next if his boy doesn't win. Like I know Sean O'Malley's said that he's been promised. I don't think Dana and them have said officially, like, yeah, Sean O'Malley's not fighting. He's getting the next title shot. And I thought it was interesting that Merab won and jumped O'Malley in the rankings. Now, I know I'm right there with you guys. You're probably thinking rankings don't mean anything. I 100% agree. But sometimes they do. And sometimes they don't mean that that's the next guy up. But sometimes they want it to mean that it is a possibility. Hey, don't think that Sean O'Malley has it guaranteed. If Henry Cejudo goes out there and wins, and Aljo says, hey, that was my time. I'm done with this division. That weight cut sucked. I'm moving up. Make way for Merab. I can see the UFC going, okay, do we do Sean O'Malley and Cejudo? That makes a lot of sense. What also makes a lot of sense, matchup-wise, is Merab Cejudo Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen. That's just, to me, those are more interesting fights. They're funner fights to watch. I can see that happening. Now, what happens if they told Sean he's getting the next title fight? Money talks, right? They just throw him an extra bag. He's like, cool, I'm down with it. So don't think Merab for sure isn't getting a title shot next. If Henry wins, I can see that happening.
Remember back in the day, like they used to put like the co-main event of the weight class, if there was a belt up for grabs, the co-main event would basically be number one contender. So we don't have to waste our lives arguing about these dumb positions and rankings and crap that is completely arbitrary at this point in the game. Like, I miss those days.
I think they would like to. Like they would probably like to have a Merab O'Malley regardless of the winner. But what happens if Merab and Aljo win? You can't do it in that weight class because Merab and Aljo aren't fighting each other. That's the whole
thing. That goes back to my original statement. That's crazy talk. Talking about the world championship here. We're not fighting nobody. That's okay. I'll fight everybody sometimes, not everybody all the time. Whatever.
We'll get into the fight later on in the show. The fight between Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo. We'll talk about that a little bit since that's next week's pay-per-view headliner. Let's go to the co-main event. We had Caio Borralho go in there, second round submission. The guy, he's a character, man. Like he's a character that can scrap. And J-Spec, what'd you think about how that fight played out?
I feel like a proud relative or whatever. Caio and myself, plus the watch group, we've had the benefit of talking with this young man since literally on his entry into the Contender Series. So getting to see him all the way up to this point now, main eventing a card is beautiful. Obviously, I was biased to all hell on this fight. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to even act like I came into this objectively into this fight. I was full blown Team Borralho, and I think there was a couple of red flags in the fight that I'm so glad turned out to be just warnings and hopefully lessons he can review on tape. But when he came out, he was a lot more, and he being Caio, being a little overly animated, perhaps, like dangerously aggressive, as we see sometimes, maybe too soon to bite. And he was being a little crazy early on. I mean, there was some. I'm sure if anybody goes back and watches it, they're like, "Whoa, man, that punch could have cleaned him out, or that situation could have gone against him very hard." But results being what they were, very happy of it, and can't wait to see this guy continue to blossom, because he is going back to, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, guys who are just genuinely themselves and authentic. You don't got to be like so-and-so, or you don't got to be like so-and-so else. And there's a lot of people buying into the bad guy or the gimmick, or buying into the wrestling phenomenon. Caio is his own unique creature. He flies his flag, and I love him for it. And I'm glad he got his shit together, basically, not cutting any words or critiques, even from a guy like. I'm glad he got his shit together, because he put himself in some dangerous situations throwing extra hard like he was throughout that fight.
Well, it just shows you that he has a chin, because Macau, he can crack. That boy, he's taken out a lot of light heavyweights. And for some reason, he's small for middleweight. It's wild to me. Like, how does he come in, weight class down, and he's smaller than the guys in that weight? That's why you see a lot of guys moving from middleweight to light heavyweight and having no problem, because they're just massive. Anyways, the performance was phenomenal. I feel like he was trying to like play the game in the first round with Macau to see like how good Macau really is on the feet. You know what I mean? And he got cracked a few times, right? Solid punches. And he showed his chin. You know what I mean? Like he knows when to like switch up the game plan. And in that second round, he goes in there and just bulldozes through him. Like he could have probably done that in the first round. He just didn't. You know what I mean? He did take some risks, but like sometimes in this game, you got to kind of test yourself. I think that's what he did in that first round. And it was a big spot, co-main event for him. I know in a fight night, a co-main event doesn't really mean anything, but for him in his mind, it's probably a big spot against a guy that is a veteran of the sport, a veteran of the UFC that has knocked out a lot of dudes, dangerous power. And he goes in there, takes those punches, moves forward, takes him down, submits him pretty easy. The guy, some people are talking about future champ. Preston's in the chat saying he's a future champ. Sicko, do you see future champ in him? He's 4-0 in the UFC Contender Series. He beat Aaron Jeffries on there to get the contract. And then actually he was on Contender Series twice, which is crazy. And he's on a 13-fight win streak, man. What do you see? Do you see him like being a problem for is he another Brendan Allen coming up? What do you see in him?
Man, that's tough to say. He's extremely skilled. He's great. He needs to have a more measured approach going in. I know he wants to be exciting, and I think that's what he's going to have to realize is like, do I always want to be exciting or do I just want to try to find a win? He came out like he was shot out of a damn cannon that first round. And we saw him like coming out. He's dancing. He's hype. He's jumping up and down like he's just chomping at the bit to get in there. He gets in there and he's big movements, flying knees, spinning attacks, huge lead hooks, darting in with overhand rights, like huge movements trying to take this dude's head off. And I'm like, oh man, he's going to gas out. Like he's going to gas out or get clipped. This is just not a good approach. I don't know what Caio's doing in there. Like he needs to relax a little bit. But credit to him, credit to his team. I don't know what the corner was saying to him, but the second round comes out way more measured, gets to the takedown, and he's smarter about his level change because he tried, right? He shot in the first round, but he's from far out. It's just like, I'm just going to throw this power double leg and just show everyone I'm going to lift this dude up and slam him. Didn't work. Second round, he's like, all right, I'm going to feint now. I'm going to start getting inside a little bit better, have a more measured approach to this level change, and he got the fight where he wanted it. So credit to him. Even if the first round I felt like was a bad way to come out, he made the adjustments and he got the win. And he is a problem. Like we can see it. You don't go on 13-fight win streaks for no reason. You don't come out and get undefeated in your first 3 or 4 fights in the UFC for no reason. Like he is going to be a problem. I'm just interested to see how he plays through do I want to be entertaining and a finisher, or can I just get a win against anybody over, especially if he starts getting into the 5-round territory? I need to see that before.
J-Spec, what's next for Caio? He called out Brunson. Brunson's already talking about he doesn't know who he is really. He never seen him fight. Preston's saying, I hope they don't feed him to Brunson. That's moving up too fast. Caio's only 30. Is that moving too fast?
To Brunson right now? I don't think so. Like this Brunson is diminished. Like, so we're not talking like Brunson 2 years ago. Brunson, that would be too much. Even Brunson last year, until I didn't know for sure he was fully used up. And I say that respectfully. I do like you a lot, Mr. Brunson. I just mean at the world title challenger used up, not like can't win fights. Man, Caio, no, I think Caio has all the rights in the world to take that fight. I think that's smart. We see that with a lot of guys. Look, every single thing Caio has done so far has been a one clear, maybe it's a 2. You could look at it different ways, but every time he's entered the octagon, he's gone one level above, next level above, and so on and so forth. Now, maybe Brunson is a little bit more than one level because we've got to love Derek Brunson, but I see it as a wise call out to a veteran that has an incredible respect from the fans, would catapult Caio into that, hey, everybody know my name now kind of category. Shit, I'm not mad at all. I think he could pull it off.
M is saying Caio versus Brunson is a good fight. Caio has 4 wins already and 2 on Contender Series. Definitely, that's facts right there. I can see him getting Brunson considering the last 4 guys he fought. UFC sometimes likes to give favorable matchups after testing. Yes, this guy. And M is saying, what about Brendan Allen? I think Brendan Allen is on a different trajectory. You know what I mean? Like he's fought guys already in the top 15. I feel like the fight to make is Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis is number 15 in the rankings, and Caio's not. He didn't beat anybody in the rankings yet. So why would you catapult him to a guy that's is a top 10 fighter. You know what I mean? He might not be, you know, what is it? He might not be the same Derek Brunson, but he still, you know, has that number. You know what I mean? I think the UFC wants to like put Brunson against someone like Roman. You know what I mean? Roman is a guy that's already in the top 15 that probably deserves someone that with the name after his fight that he probably won against Vettori, right? He's got that one. So maybe they'll put that together. But yeah, but I don't know if they'll put him against Brendan Allen. Maybe Muniz. Muniz would be a good fight, right? Like Muniz is coming off a loss. He's number 14. Chris Curtis, does he have a fight already?
I don't know, but I'll say right now, I don't want Chris Curtis and Caio to fight. I like those guys a lot. Like I said,
Well, we gotta take that away. You can't
I
like
can't.
you know, you
No, I
can't
don't.
like people. You know what I mean? They
I
can't fight
do.
because if they were fighting for the title, you know what I mean? Like they would fight for the title, right?
Of
Oh,
course.
so Curtis is scheduled for Nasruddin Imanov.
Yeah, I was just looking at it
I
right
feel.
now.
Yeah.
289.
So yeah, so I think Muniz would be a good matchup. I think Gastelum is going down to 170 for some crazy reason. Why now? You know what I mean? That makes no sense. I think I would bet against him. I think I would bet against him.
Yeah, like
If he goes-
dude, he talked
know what,
about that
guys?
so long ago. Like
Don't
that's
start thinking about nutrition now.
you can literally Google like his name and nutritionist, and the date is gonna roll back like 2017 or some shit, and it's gonna be talking about him, you know, trying to change weights appropriately.
Well, man, you know, when you got the Mexican food is good, man, and I know that's probably his crutch. You know, in camp, it's just like he's smelling the smells, and you can't
Don't
get
blame
away
me.
from it.
Don't blame me, Mr. Gaslam. Stay at middleweight. Fuck it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Man, I
what
don't know.
is
When
it,
I'm looking at the top 15, Derek Brunson, I kind of like that more than the rest, to be honest with you. I mean, some of them are just already paired up, coming off of losses. I mean, Derek Brunson's coming off a loss himself, but I like that matchup for Kyle. I like that matchup because Derek Brunson, it's the time is towards the end, right? Like we have to see what's left in Derek Brunson. He talked about retiring after his last fight, so it could be a great opportunity for Kyle to jump in there, take that fight, and see what he's made out of.
Hermansson's not
matchup.
bad. Hermansson's not bad either.
I mean, Chris Curtis isn't bad either.
Well, Hermansson
yeah.
pulled out against Brendan Allen, so the main event for June 3rd is up for grabs, and then I think Brendan Allen wants Sean Strickland to step up and fight him on that main event, rematch him. But he's scheduled for a main event against Magomedov on July 1st, which is like the oddest. You see, when you got like a matchup like Strickland versus Magomedov as a main event, that's kind of a clue that you could see Caio maybe stepping in against Brendan Allen. That could be a possibility. Caio would be like, yo, I'm ready to fight. Slide me in there. And, you know, it's a main event spot, man, against a ranked guy. That could be something that could happen right now, man. They could be talking about it right now. I think M was talking. He says, I was thinking Caio could fill. You see exactly what M was saying. You know, the Joker Hermansson is out, right? So we'll see, man. Mikhail, right? I think they just need to put him against strikers, middleweight strikers. They're just is a title run in his future, maybe, but right now, just put him against strikers, guys that are gonna stand and strike with them in the middleweight division. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, you just get good fights.
Yeah, just get good fights because the dude is entertaining. He's just not entertaining when he fights wrestlers, right? It's just that's what it is, unless he knocks the wrestlers out. But just let's just make, you know what I mean, good matchups for Mikhail. Get him paid. He's probably getting paid decent money to go out there and make good matchups, man. Stop with all this nonsense of putting him against like mixed martial artists. I know it's MMA, but you know, we want to see some good matchups. M is saying Kyle versus Bruno Silva. That's a good matchup too. That's actually a solid fight right there. I'd take Kyle in that one. I favor him in that fight. M is saying Kyle did say he broke his hand though. Did he? I didn't see that. I missed that one. So
yeah, that one,
if it is, then he's definitely not going to step in to this fight. But yeah, a bright future for Kyle. Is he a future champ? Possibly. He still has a lot of, you know, he still has to march through a lot of doors or break down a lot of doors, right? To reach like that conversation of like, you know, because right now, who's the champ of the middleweight division? Adesanya, right? It's like, You know, I think Caio versus Bo Nickel would have been actually a good fight, to be honest with you. That would be a good
Man.
fight. You know what I mean? Because Bo Nichols is fighting Tresean Gore, right? But I think Caio versus Bo Nickel, you know what I mean? Because that would draw a lot of attention to Caio, right? Whoever fights Bo Nickel is going to get on a pay-per-view main card, right? So Caio would be a great guy. He would actually promote that fight really well. You know what I mean? Like the dude is, you know, he draws attention. But Tresean Gore's for fighting him. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, man, that's it. Like exciting times for Caio for sure. I think like he put himself on the map. He got a lot of people's attention with this fight, and Song Yadong as well. Now let's go to the next fight on the card on the main. What is it on the main card was Rodolfo Vieira versus Cody Brundage, right? So the first round, you know, Cody Brundage was piecing up Vieira, right? And I felt like he made an error in judgment possibly by following Vieira and allowing him to recover. If he would have just stood back and made the referee stand up Vieira, he probably would have got the TKO win, dude, because he was landing so accurately against Vieira, right? It was just like, you know, just sometimes, man, in this game, one error, man, one error. And then after that, when the first round or the second round started and Vieira went and pressed Cody against the fence to go for the takedown, Cody was grimacing like he was injured already for some odd reason, right? And maybe he was injured in that first round. I don't know, but yeah, man, what'd you think, Sicko? Like that was an error in judgment, right? Like he could have got the TKO win in that first round.
I thought it was two errors. That he made the first error, like you said, and the second one, the same thing. He got pressed, but he's the one who jumped guillotine. It wasn't a takedown by Vieira. Vieira didn't shoot a double or get a trip or find a way to take him down on the mat. Cody jumped guillotine. He tried to get a submission. I just don't understand when you know the game plan coming in. That has to be the game plan, right? Avoid the ground with him, stay standing, and when you have the success, you have to stay with it. The fact that he jumped into his guard when he got that first knockdown, it was frustrating to watch. I talked just right now about Caio and his ability, that fight IQ, his ability to change it up in the second round. Complete opposite for Brundage. Like you have them hurt. You know, you have to know who you're fighting, right? When you know the guy wants to fight on the ground, when you know that he's that type of level of grappler and that jiu-jitsu is his number one game plan, and you're having success on the feet, why are you jumping into his guard? And then the second time when they come out in the second round, if he was hurt, okay, maybe he said, oh, well, this is last ditch effort. I'm just going to jump guard. I'm going to try to jump this guillotine and see if I can get the choke because something's wrong. Maybe I could give him that. But for me, it was just frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to see somebody, and we see it a lot in the UFC, where it's just like a natural habit, I guess, from sparring and just kind of doing the right things and being a true mixed martial artist. How many times do we see somebody rock somebody, have them up against the fence, they land a 2-3 punch combination, and then they drop for a double leg? They change levels, and it's like, no, you have them hurt. You're about to finish them. Like, stay on that. Put your foot on the gas and stay on it. So just frustrating all around to watch for Cody Brundage. And for Vieira, hey, man, if somebody makes a mistake, you're supposed to make them pay for it. And he did that for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was just, it's Vieira, man. He's a bully on the ground, man. Like you want to stay away from it. Bottom, top, whatever it is. Like he lives there, right?
Yeah.
Like he's always there. And it was very, very, it's lessons learned, man. Like sometimes people will scream fight IQ, but sometimes it's not about fight. It's like instinct for some of these guys to just like knock somebody down and just rush in. It doesn't even, they forget who they're fighting sometimes, right? It's just like they knock them down. You're like, oh, I saw his head hit that canvas. I'm going to go in there and get that ground and pound. And then once you get in there and get tied up, you're like, oh shit, it's Vieira. You know, you forget, you know what I mean? It's,
yeah, once he
you don't know
sweeps
what's
you,
going.
like,
yeah, you don't know what's like he was doing like the deep half guard, like under, like sweeping under, like stuff that you don't really see in MMA because it's such a dangerous position. But Vieira is so comfortable on the ground that he'll do that, right? So it's it was a crazy fight, man. And Vieira, he got a win. He was super emotional. I feel bad for Brundage because he's gonna watch that tape and he's just gonna be like, yo,
kicking himself.
yo, like why did I do that? But he's super young still, man. I think he's like 28 or something like that. So he's got time to develop. And he's just starting off with Factory X. You know, I mean, he's been there for like maybe 2 years or something like that, but maybe not even that. But yeah, just like he's improving. It's just these types of fights are gonna make him better. Sometimes when you win, you don't realize what you need to work on, but when you lose, you have to look yourself in the mirror and face that, right? J Spec Vieira, what do you think his ceiling is? Is he too old?
You know what? The luck is on his side, even if he is, later in the mileage, because he's a grappler first, and that's not going to change. He will always be that grappler through and through for the rest of his career. So with that being said, you get more fight time. Grapplers get more days in the sun, and that's just how the fight game works in this era. And at least that's the way it's been working for the last 30 years. Grapplers just get more mileage. So the other thing I want to say on the proactive side, not just passively because that's your style, Den, regular in our watch parties with Sicko and I, he commented right away on Vieira's physique, that his body type had kind of morphed and changed a little bit compared to his previous fights, leaning out, if you will. Obviously, he's still in great shape, still very strong, but, kind of getting away from that less bulky frame. So, it's great to see. If you see someone putting in the physical effort and dietary effort required to change the body in your 30s, then that's a guy committed to his craft, and we could see a shit ton more of Vieira.
You're saying Vieira looks smaller? He looked jacked.
No, he looked jacked, but the way he's proportioned, like look at 2 fights ago or so, he was more square. That's all my best way I can describe that.
Man, he's he's a guy that, like, the smell test, he doesn't pass. Just look at him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think like whenever people like advertise jiu-jitsu, like one of the most popular pictures is him like ripping off his gi, and he's just jacked, right? Just like massive and just
all
ripped.
those dudes, man. Those dudes,
it's insane,
crazy,
man. Some of those dudes that I'm not accusing anybody of anything. It's just the smell test, right? It is what it is. Let's get into what do you think is next for Vieira though? Like, what do you guys want to see? Who do you want to see him matched up against in this middleweight division? Definitely not Macau, right?
No thanks. Pass. I don't know. That's the thing about Vieira, right? Like, he doesn't get people's give a shit going. I say this on certain fighters, and unfortunately I say about him. Like, it's not like people are like, oh, can't wait to see Vieira fight. So honestly, it's kind of like whoever the fuck they got, whoever needs a fight this guy. That's my feelings about him. He doesn't capture any wow. There's no wow factor.
Well, he needs to be tested with someone that has a decent ground game, right? Someone that could defend against submissions, right? That's just not going to melt on the floor. That's what he needs. He needs that test, right? Like, he's got his confidence back with this win, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure he was doubting himself a lot in the last couple of losses. So I would like to see him fight anybody that has a ground game that can defend well against submissions, and then it allows Vieira to try to win fights with like a complete game rather than just with the ground, right? Like, he has to wrestle, he has to scramble, he has to strike, he has to do everything. You know what I mean? Because if he doesn't, M is right. GM3 versus Vieira, that is the
that'd
fight.
be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Perfect, man. And
Yep.
GM3 is coming off a loss as well, and he has so many fights. That's a good fight. GM3
the scrambles on that
Vieira
would be fun to watch.
Yeah,
good suggestion.
That we need to get that quick, right? Now let's move on to the next fight. Julian Erosa. Julian, if you're like Spanish, right? Julian Erosa versus what is it? Fernando Padilla. And Padilla
Yeah.
goes in there and does his thing. Like,
Beat that
just
boy.
not even, I don't even think he took a punch. Did he? Look at the stats. Oh, he did. He landed 15. Rosa landed 15 strikes. But the heavy strikes, the heavy shots, Padilla, man. Like, what'd you think of the stoppage, J Spec? Like, people are screaming about it.
I don't know why they're screaming about it. Like they're screaming about it like it was the worst thing they'd ever seen. Let's not forget that less than a month ago we had not in the UFC, but Fury FC had a referee gaff so terrible, so um shitty. Was there? I'm gonna throw it out like that. It was so shitty work done by that referee that it caused outrage amongst MMA fans, community as a whole, and fighters, everybody, because the dude, has maybe permanent damage in his arm and was unconscious with his seizure. Like all that being said, my point being is, folks, we can't have it two ways, right? It's not like we can protect all the fighters perfectly or to the death. And in this case, God, Juicy J got popped, man. Like the first one, he went down like super legitimately. He was going down. He got it together somehow and got dropped again. It was, yes. Now on the count, the counter to that, he was able to find his way magically, like a baby born deer, to his feet somehow, against all odds, and started scooting out of there, showing intelligent, reasonable defense. From the camera angles I got to see sitting there watching TV like everybody else, I didn't get a clear shot at any point that his eyes were, off in La La Land. He wasn't looking at the rafters at any point. But on the other hand, I am not there like the ref is, and I didn't have every angle. Like on that second shot, I never saw. It's kind of like the NFL, right? Like you have to have 100 conclusive% evidence. Well, on that first shot, I seen evidence that Juicy J was still there. The second one, even though his body reacted and he was able to get on his horse and move laterally like a fucking Olympic athlete, the way he got out of there that second time, dude, he was in deep shit. So with all that being said, and looking at both sides of it, I'm totally okay with everybody who wants to be upset with it, anybody who wants to call it an early stoppage, because it's right there. I think technically it is just a touch early. On the other side, we got to protect the fighters, and Juicy was in deep shit. So not mad at the call, but people who are, I understand them.
I was saying that Juicy J was knocked out, in his last fight pretty bad, right? It was clean, like he was shaken, right? Like I asked him about it in the interview ahead of this fight against Padilla about the recovery, and he said it was normal, you know what I mean? Like I took the doctor's orders, whatnot. But I felt like he was coming back too fast. Like sometimes with knockouts, you can't come back too fast. And I thought he was coming back too fast. And there is something to that, I think. I think there is
100%.
something to getting knocked out and coming back too quick, even if it's like 3 or 4 or 5 months. I think you should probably take like 6 months or more after a knockout. And it looked like it did affect him in this one, right? Because Padilla, I don't think he's known to be like a power striker or anything like that. But when he landed clean, like it dropped him a couple times. Sicko, what'd you think of the stoppage in Padilla's performance, man? After he's been off for 2 years.
Hey, 2 years well spent. He was in the lab because my goodness, did he beat him down. I mean, every shot, and even besides the two that dropped him, every shot was a big shot, man. He was hitting him with power, hitting him clean. His performance was brilliant. As far as the stoppage, I'm probably going to get a lot of crap. I'm probably one of the rare ones. Like I would have done the same thing. I would have stopped it, man. I would have been fooled. I would have probably told him, my bad. I thought you were out. That's on me. But the way he went down, both times, the first time, eyes rolled back, went down, grabbed onto a leg, and recovered. And the ref saw that and was like, oh, shit, if he goes down like that again, I'm going to have to jump in there. Even the second one, yeah, the eyes were there. He popped up like a zombie. but that boy was dead. He just came back to life. Like the way his head was turned, arms out, like that's a bad scene, man. For the people that are like, no, that's a horrible stoppage, like terrible. Those are the guys that are watching the fights, like finish him. Like you want a guy to die in there? Like if he didn't call it, he was just gonna take another right hand. He was gonna go to sleep. But I mean, we've seen them, right? Everyone's gonna say, "Hey, we've seen the examples of guys that were knocked down time and time again." Fight that I'm thinking of with, dang it, who was it? Rose Namajunas, trainer, boyfriend. His famous fight where he dropped him like 2-3 times in the first round.
Oh,
Dude comes
Pat
back.
Barry and
Pat Barry, yes.
and man, what was his name?
It wasn't
Congo?
Chicago, was it?
He fights for
Chick
Congo. Yeah,
Yeah,
Congo.
yeah, that fight, right? You're always gonna point to that fight, but it's like there's a lot more examples of guys that should have probably been stopped early, and then they took one extra shot and then went completely night. I understand why he's frustrated. I would be too, because I don't know how he popped up. I don't know how the hell he just popped up and was completely there after the second one. That shocked the hell out of me. I'm like, this dude is the Walking Dead. But I can't blame the ref because the scene, just the visual of those two knockdowns were bad.
Yeah, man. I think the ref, Tagioni or whatever his name is, he was just too slow. He was just too slow. Like I think he was trying. Like he needs to be much faster if he's gonna step in and stop the fight, because that his delayed reaction kind of allowed Juicy J to get back up. You know what I mean? If he would have stepped in much earlier, then it wouldn't be such an argument. Because when you watch it, when Juicy J got back up, he was circling away, and he seemed like he was all there, man, because he was arguing against it.
Yeah,
like
immediately.
Clear. It wasn't like he was wobbling and like he was walking away.
Dude, yeah, no.
Like that.
No, and you get popped in the face just once, not twice. We get popped in the face once where you lose your legs and then go full speed laterally and not trip up or not look stupid. Like that doesn't work. That's not how it works, folks. That's not how it works. So yeah,
But the ref, man, he made mistakes earlier in the night, and it affects, like whenever refs make mistakes early in the night,
it haunts
them. And it affects them later in the card when they step in there. Like there was a fight early in the night where a fighter clearly grabbed the fence, and it stopped the takedown and would have affected the fight the rest of that round completely, but he just gave them a warning. Yeah. And then after that fight, you kept on hearing the other refs, don't grab the fence, don't grab the fence, don't grab the fence, don't grab the fence. It's like, don't grab the fence. You don't need to, I think you could tell him, like, you can tell him things, right? But that's the warning. Once they do it, you take the point.
Yeah, because it's not like an eye poke or a low blow where it's like, I definitely didn't mean to do that, my fault.
Unless
you're a fence grab, like you meant to do it. Like
exactly.
There's no
and
accidental
there's
fence
the
grabs.
whole, like, with the eye poke thing is, if you're telling the fighter, yo, keep your fingers from extending.
Yeah.
And you're telling them over and over, and then they poke the other guy in the eye. Yeah, you take a point. Like, you've been warning them. You know what I mean? Like, you warned them in the back before they come out, and then you're warning them again. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then they do it still. Like, you got to take the point. You know what I mean? Like, it affects the fight. If I poked you in the eye, you don't think it's going to affect you for the rest of the fight?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But that's where some of these things have to start becoming more standardized, right? Like now where we're at in MMA today, everybody fucking knows not to fuck around with the fence, right? This isn't the early years where it went through so many different ways you could interpret a fence grab. But now there's no like confusion on using the fence. It's just don't ever use it. Pretend like it doesn't exist. And so at this point, there needs to be more officiating that solidifies that way of thinking, and that's the only way we're going to fix that fence grab stuff, because you're right, week after week. And I the one that's really murky, and this is not a ref and rules discussion, but like nut strikes, man. Like, to me, I understand it's part of the game. That's why I think one free one is cool. But if you catch two in a round, I don't want to talk about it. Like, if he gets two low shots in a round, like, that should be an automatic point myself. I'm going off on my own things I hate, but there we go.
Yeah. I mean, we always joke about it, and it's messed up that we joke about it, right? We say, well, when you come into the fight, you're granted a free nut shot, a free eye poke, and a free fence grab. So go ahead and get your one for each one. But it's like that shouldn't be the case, man. We shouldn't. I promise you, if people start getting points taken off, they're gonna think a lot harder about it, especially the fence grabs, because it's like eye pokes. We've seen it before where somebody actually throws a strike and it was the thumb. You know, they just have their thumb out and it goes into the eye, which is an eye poke. So it's like, I understand a low blow, you know, you're looking to kick and somebody kind of comes in, or they drop, they change levels and you kind of hit them where you might have been trying to hit the inside thigh. They drop level a little bit. I get it. But a fence grab, it's like, how was that an accident? How is it an accidental fence grab? You're about to get taken down and you're like, oh no, let me grab this fence real quick to not go down. Like that has to, or you have to award the position for sure. Like the position has to be awarded 1000%. And then even the fact that if you do get a point taken out, it might even be worth it if you're gassed and you're tired because they stand you up. Mm-hmm. If you grab the fence and they take a point, they don't put you back in that position. So if you're somebody that's like, dude, I cannot get up. This dude has been taking me down every round, holding me down. I'm gassed. My only chance is to land a big shot on him. Mm-hmm. And you're like, fuck it. I'll give up the point. I'm down 3 rounds. I don't care.
You're like, what's double extra point? The fence?
Like Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man when he fought Macho Man Randy Savage, bro. He's just hanging on it. Because at the end of the day, they're going to take a point. If you're down 3 rounds, take 2 points. I don't care. I have to knock him out anyway, and this is my perfect opportunity to come back and be on the feet again. Like that, the entire rules around fence grabbing specifically needs to change, in my opinion.
It does. Well, you know, the last weekend, right? You had the Bobby Green, Jared Gordon headbutt clash of head situation.
Every weekend.
Where when the fight was over, you had Paul Felder screaming. And you could probably hear everything. Everybody, the commission could hear everything that's going on, what he's talking about. So they decide to review the fight, and then they overturn it to a no contest, right? Mm-hmm. Why is that not happening for these fence? Why is it like these rules, man? Why are they not like altering them? Why are they not like revising them? Like what is going on with it doesn't make any sense. Why is the replay not being used more often? You know what I mean? Like it just. I don't understand like why these commissions, dude. Like
we've never seen that, worst. Right? I don't think I've ever seen that. Have we ever seen a situation where there was a fence grab, the ref didn't see it, but then somebody outside like the replay saw it and was like, "Hey, he grabbed the fence, put him back in that position." That's never happened.
There's got to be refs outside, like at least 2 refs on each side. So when there's something going on, like they can scream to the main ref.
Yeah,
like
fence grab. Put him back in that
fence
position.
Grab or something they can't see. They gotta be able to like make a decision there to stop the fight and say, yo, the dude was grabbing the fence. He was utilizing the fence. Let's go look at the replay. And then they could look at the replay, start the fight back up. Point deduction, blah, blah. They need to, and then they need to make it quick. You know what I mean? They don't need to make it all long and shit. It doesn't take fucking 15 minutes like the NFL.
Is it me or are they trying to decide what the best case scenario for the fight? Like they're trying to think of all the things about that fight to come up with a decision instead of just like, if you do A, then B happens. You know what I mean? Like they're sitting there like, oh, do we want to take the point? Man, this is a close fight.
They're not
being
think that way.
You can't even think that way. You have to just be like, hey, this is exactly what happens when you do this. And that's it. We don't care if the fight's close. We don't care if this loses you the fight. It's not our job to worry about that. Our job is just to enforce the rules.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things is at least in Nevada, they have a separate judge, or not judge, but a referee's assistant. I don't know. He's just
commission?
Yeah, it's part of the commission. He's sitting there watching that screen, and there's a totally separate guy with his own computer sitting there with a little yellow flashlight that I'm sure you guys have seen on UFC shows by now. So there is a little bit of like a team dynamic when it goes into regards of the replay, at least for the Nevada Athletic Commission. But this just kind of goes into a bigger, fucking deeper, bigger hole that we have in the sport, and that is the absolute non-unification of rules. Like, you don't play football differently in different states. So it's that's a whole nother discussion. Excuse me for hitting my mic. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, really weird.
I was saying cattle prods. Give the refs cattle prods. You know, get your hands off the fence. You don't listen. Bzz, bzz. Done.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just
Preston, for sure, bro.
it's
Go to bed,
it's
son.
it's just a never ending thing, man, for them, that they are incompetent and you just have to deal with it. And it's like fighters don't really have the power to go against them, and if they do, then they will be punished for it. And we've seen it
Dude,
many times in the past.
yeah.
So I don't
They,
want to harp on it for like an hour, because it's just, we could say what we say, but it's just like it's an endless warp hole of just incompetence. That's all we can pretty much say about it.
Inconsistency as well.
Inconsistency, yeah. So now let's before we move on to next week's card, we just talk about that a little bit. Did you guys have any fighters or fights that you really enjoyed on this one, like you really would like to discuss any further, any performances? Sicko, go ahead.
Yeah, the Ager and Irina Alexieva. Sorry if I'm butchering that last name. I thought that fight was just interesting all around because of the backstory to it. Irina comes in first round sub, knee bar. I think only the fourth knee bar in women's history in the UFC. So that's cool. She, it's not something that you see every day. So you want to say, okay, let's give her the flowers. What a good performance. She came out, she was entertaining, but she missed weight, and she missed weight by a lot. And the thing that I hated about it more than anything was a quote that I found from her after the fight. So this was her quote. She said, I feel great. And even though I did not make the weight, I feel great even though I did not make the weight. But the thing was much more important for me to keep this fight. This was something that me and my team decided together. If I were to make the weight, most likely I would be so depleted in there that there was zero chance that I would be able to fight, and I would have to cancel the fight. And then I would let down the UFC and my opponent. So it was more important for me to maybe come in a little bit overweight, but at the same time, make sure that fight happens. So how can we put any stock in you? How can we put any type of investment in you in the future? If you're saying, I literally would have had to cancel the fight if I tried to make the weight. So I just stopped trying. I just said, screw it. I'm done trying. I'm not going to cut these last 5 pounds. I'm just going to weigh in like this. Hopefully she still takes the fight. I'll lose my purse, whatever. And that was just one of those things where the performance was so good, but it's like, damn, what do we think for you moving forward? I mean, she was just so impressive, but and I get it. She doesn't have a lot of experience. Not a whole lot of pro experience, at least. I couldn't really find too much amateur experience from her either. So maybe the lack of experience isn't just in the octagon, but the lack of experience is in nutrition, knowing how to cut weight properly. Maybe that you could put that on a team and say, hey, maybe she needs a new team. Maybe she needs to get a nutritionist. Maybe the UFC can help her with that. Obviously, the PI or all the stuff that they have for you. Like it shouldn't be that hard to make weight anymore. And, it was one of those things where it sucks to take away a great win, but you have to do it when you miss weight by that much.
Well, basically, she admitted to having having an advantage by
Exactly.
missing weight.
Yeah.
And there you go. You know what I mean? Like, fighters are gonna do that, and she's one of the only ones that will admit it. But at the same time, they need to take more of purses, man. If they're gonna miss weight, they got to take more money from the fighters that miss weight. That's just the only solution to it. Just because you're taking a risk by taking on somebody that had a weight advantage, so to say.
Remember
Marcus
the
Musser
Izzy
mentioned-
rant, right? Remember
Yeah.
Israel Adesanya when he was in there for, I believe it was Caio, France, when his opponent came in way overweight, and he was saying, like, dude, they don't care about the money. They just want to get the bump up. They just want to get the win to get the next thing. If you start 80%, something high like that, I promise you, these people that are coming in over 5 pounds, they're not going to come in 5 pounds over. They're going to try. They're going to at least try their hardest to get on weight, where you can't have people just going, I'm good. I'm not even going to try.
And that goes into like fighter pay now, you know what I mean? Because the fighters are taking fights and then they can't back out last second because they need to get that next paycheck. Whoever's, like that actually that made weight, you know what I mean? It's not their fault, but they have to take their next paycheck, because if they don't, they maybe they don't have any money at all. You know what I mean? Like, they're just fighter pay is intertwined with that as well. J-Spec, what do you think? What do you see in the rest of the card on the prelims that you wanted to get into?
I will gladly take this moment to bring up a fight that had my heart and my heartstrings all tied up in knots before the event started, and that was between Cody Durden and Charles Johnson. Both awesome dudes. I know you've interviewed them a bunch, JHK, and I have, and they've just come around the spaces tons of times. Both gentlemen, classy, strong fighters, all that stuff. They came out, and they They did what we thought they would. They would challenge each other, look good. Both men strong, like I said. But Durden showed him that there's in the, at least in the wrestling category, he had his number and was, you know, just clearly superior in that one area. I feel like the rest of the match was pretty even, but just come straight to wrestling. Mr. Durden had him. On the other side of that, I just want to put like a tip, like, you know, like a little crick in my neck, a little tipping on my head, thinking about, you know, what's up with Mr. Johnson. You know, I think Charles Johnson's way too good of a fighter for the record he has in the UFC currently right now. You know, I think the record doesn't reflect the fighter in this one moment, and he's probably in a situation now. You know, just all honesty, he's probably in a situation where his next fight he needs to win. So with that being said, you know, blessings on your next matchup. I hope it's favorable and all that good stuff. So yeah, that was the fight that was kind of like maybe off the radar, not on everybody's watch list, but it was definitely on mine, and happy for it.
All right. Now let's move on to next week's card. We have
real quick, I think we'd be doing a huge disservice if we didn't just shout out Marcus McGee. 3 days notice, got the job done.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, man. A lot of people won money on Marcus McGee. They didn't know about him, and
yeah,
and you know, they cleaned house with Marcus McGee. Now, let's get into next week, man. UFC 288, Sterling versus Cejudo, the main event, bantamweight title, New York, New Jersey, Prudential Center. It's a crazy matchup. I feel like Henry Cejudo coming back is great for the division. Even though the division has killer after killer after killer, it's always good to have Henry Cejudo there because he is the Olympic gold medalist. He is the bantamweight champ. He's the flyweight champ. He's triple C. You know what I mean? He just makes everything a little bit more interesting, you know, not inside the cage. Well, inside the cage as well, but outside the cage. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a character, and we love characters. So let's just talk about the breakdown of the matchup and what do you guys see in this fight. Let's start with you, Sicko. Who do you favor, and why do you favor?
Oh man, it's such a tough one to see. If I'm saying that Henry hasn't lost a step, if I'm saying the layoff hasn't affected Henry, because I don't know if it has or not. He's not coming back in. This isn't boxing. He doesn't get a tune-up fight. He's coming straight in for the championship, for the title. So I'm just going to assume that Henry is still the same Henry. And if that's the assumption, I favor him in this fight. I think it's going to be hard for Aljo to get to his back. It's going to be hard for Aljo to out-wrestle him. He has size advantage. He's a big guy. I think he walks around heavier than Henry. Obviously, he's going to have the height and reach on Henry. But that Olympic pedigree, man, this isn't a D1 from somewhere, you know, he was an All-American. Like, this is a guy who won a gold medal in wrestling. To think that I'm just going to take him down, I'm going to hold him down, I'm going to get to his back, I don't see it. And we've seen Henry work on his striking. The problem is, has he been really working as hard as he used to? Was he in the gym training for real the whole time off? Or did he just start doing that now? Has he lost a step? It's tough, man. It's tough. But for right now, I'm leaning Henry Cejudo. Plus, Sugar Sean O'Malley's #1 fan. I want to see Sean O'Malley and Henry Cejudo. I think if it sells better, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, you know, Cejudo did get a little bit plump, you know, in his time away. But the thing is, I believe that he was always training, or he was always training someone. He was always doing classes. Like, he's a big part of Fight Ready. He's a big part of like getting his fighters ready that train there. And there's a lot of fighters that go to Fight Ready now, like that have like moved their camps to Fight Ready just because of the combination of coaches that they have. You got Henry Cejudo, who's a coach fighter. You got Eddie Cha. You got Franco. I forgot his name. Franco something. He's one of the main coaches there. You got Henry Cejudo's brother, I believe, who is the wrestling coach, and then a bunch of other wrestlers, like D1 wrestlers coming in to train. You got all kinds of people just flying in from Brazil. And you know, from talking to people that have done their camps or that were doing their camps recently in Fight Ready, they're telling me that Henry Cejudo has been bringing in bantamweights, high-level bantamweights, all the time to get ready for Aljamain Sterling. Like, he is not leaving any stone unturned. And the reason why these bantamweights enjoy that is because they get to take advantage of all the training partners that Henry Cejudo is bringing in. Like,
Right.
they're all training together, right? Henry Cejudo, he has a skill set. You know what I mean? He has the experience. If you look at the numbers, right? He's shorter. The reach, there's a 7-inch reach difference, right? For Sterling. Both guys are good on the ground, just different styles, right? Henry Cejudo is more of a wrestler. You know, Aljo can wrestle, but he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. I don't think this fight is gonna be on the ground, to be honest with you. This is what I see. I feel like this fight is going to be on the feet, and this is going to be a striking battle. They might clinch up, they might threaten with the takedown along the fence or whatnot, but I feel like if it does like go to the ground, and you know, I'm pretty sure one of them will take each other down eventually, but I think they're just going to pop back up, and they're going to be striking, and it's going to be a striking battle, and someone's going to get pieced up on the feet. I don't know if it's going to be Sterling, I don't know if it's going to be Cejudo, but someone's going to get pieced up on the feet, and it might lead to a way of like, you know, if Sterling does win, I feel like he utilizes his reach advantage as his unique style of striking to maybe hurt, you know, Cejudo, and then maybe lock up a submission. But I don't think he's going to just jump on him and he's going to be just so dominant that he just locks it up like a Corey Sandhagen situation. I don't think it's going to be like that. But on the flip side, I can see Cejudo going in there and really putting on a striking clinic against Sterling, like using his speed. And, you know, he has that funky, like karate style, and he has such good wrestling to where he can take risks and he's not in trouble because he can get back up and scramble and all that good stuff, right? So those are the two things that I'm looking at. I'm looking at Sterling maybe hurting Cejudo on the feet and maybe locking up a submission somehow like that. Or I could see Cejudo piecing up Sterling throughout 5 rounds, or maybe even hurting him on the feet and knocking him out. Those are the things that I can see. But then, you know, I can see Cejudo winning a decision as well. I'll let you guys know what I think at the end, but I want to get to Jay Speck and get his thoughts first.
Well, on this one, this is a great situation in the sense of the timing of it is just right. And when I say that, a lot of people go, "What the fuck are you talking about? Cejudo's been out almost 3 years." That's the point. If Cejudo's out any longer than this becomes a complete joke. This becomes a complete, what the fuck are we even talking about? Like, dude, you've been gone forever. But on the other hand, it's doable, but also an insane challenge. And then you're attaching Cejudo's name to insane challenge, like a guy who's been doing it his whole damn life, pretty much. Now there's a couple of things that can play for the benefit, right? He's 36. So for me, in this lighter weight class, 36 years old is expired. Sorry, all your attributes are declining. This is a video game. Year by year, your stuff will be going down. It's just the way it is. And for the lower weight classes, I think that year is 32. So he's already 36. He's had some time off, but the advantage there is healing up a body that has been ravaged by combat sports since, I don't know how old Henry was when he started wrestling, but I'm assuming it was a child, as most Olympian wrestlers are. With that being said, sometimes we've seen it a good number of times where that later in your 30s, that walk away from the sport, so to speak, heals yourself, lets you, and all those decades of repetitive action, they don't go away. They don't go away like the stiff joints and the other aches and pains you have. They come right back, and you can come back and win the world championship like nothing ever changed, like time stood still for you, and you have an earmark, you versus time, and you have a win. That's what Henry's trying to do right now. That's how big it is, in my opinion, as a fan and an admirer of what they're doing. But the reality is, you have a man still in his prime, didn't leave anywhere, had a lot of injuries, a lot of stories, a lot of high drama in other places, but he stayed the course, and he's in his prime, bigger than you. And when we think about, like you said, JHK, you said perfectly that the odds of this turning into some kind of Olympic wrestling match is probably not likely. Yeah. And the rest of those attributes require timing that, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There's just a combination of where you are in your age group and how much time has gone by on planet Earth that decides ring rust. And I think 36 for a lightweight fighter, and I keep saying lighter weight. I know he's not lightweight. This is 25, but 35, excuse me. That there's a lot of things against Cejudo. So realistically, at the end of the day, when you really are truthful about this situation, Sterling should have the advantage here. He should defend and retain the title. But why not? I'm going to throw my pick out there. I just want to see greatness and craziness happen. If there is a guy that is going to be the Olympian and multi-division champ and walk away from the sport and come back and snatch it all like it was all his this whole damn time, then let it be Cejudo, man. Let it be the king of cringe himself, But I think Sterling should win this.
All right, let's get some comments up first. Preston is saying Henry has had this cut under his eye for a while now. I'll be watching for that when it comes to damage given. Let's see what it is. If anyone know how to beat size, that's Cejudo. He knows how to get inside if he wants. We have $1,000. You have $1,000. You can bet on this fight, and taking away who you have emotional attachment to. What do you think is going to happen in this fight? We'll start with you, Sicko. You have $1,000 to bet on this fight, and if you win $10,000, right? So what do you see? Like, you got to pick exactly what's going to happen. How do you see it's going to happen? Like, you pick the guy, say what's going to happen. Let us know. What do you think?
I'm going to say Cejudo decision, striking battle. Cejudo just does more. He lands cleaner shots. I think he hurts Aljo. I think Aljo may start shooting a little bit unwisely. That's how I see the fight going. But again, that's just with the assumption that Henry still the same Henry.
J-Spec, what is yours?
I think my prediction would be Sterling horses around, uses his overall size and athleticism, and just wins an incredibly boring fight that no one remembers, and we'll all hopefully forget soon enough. But I see it boring, slow, even booing perhaps going on in this matchup. But in a couple of rounds, for just a few seconds, I see Aljo being squirrely and taking the back of Cejudo. I'm not saying in a threatening fight finishing kind of way, but just enough so you can argue that those rounds were his, and then we end up with a decision in favor of and still.
Cejudo, right? He's been on a long layoff. The last person he fought was Dominic Cruz, which is a fighter that was on the downslide of his career. Before that, he fought Marlon Moraes. You see what Marlon Moraes is doing right now, right, in PFL. And before that, he beat TJ Dillashaw, and that was a depleted TJ Dillashaw, at 125. He's getting old. He's 36. Like 36 in like welterweight is old, especially if you look at the history of like people over 35 in championship fights. It's staggering, like how many losses there are. There's like maybe, I don't even know, like maybe 2 or 3 wins for those like older fighters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, in my prediction, $1,000 bet, I'm gonna take Aljamain Sterling in this fight, and I agree, it's gonna be a boring fight. It's gonna be a fight where a lot of people are gonna hate Aljo even more because that's just what he does. You know what I mean? And it's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen, and he's gonna do something that the only red flag that I see is that Aljo didn't seem like he had Merab helping him throughout the whole camp. Because if you remember, Merab was out in like Europe or something doing like appearances in Italy, and like he was just doing his own thing, right? So that's kind of a concern. That's kind of a red flag. But other than that, I'm gonna take Aljo in this fight. I think we always underestimate him, and he's fought the tougher competition as of late, and he's beaten the tougher competition. I think he does take the back, and he holds that position for a long period of time, and we're gonna see a lot of this.
Yeah.
So. We're gonna see a lot of that. I think that's what's gonna happen. And Cejudo's gonna get out. They're gonna stand back up and they're gonna strike. but it's going to be 5 rounds of that. And do I want to see that? No, but I feel like that's what we're going to see. So it is what it is.
Y'all
Now,
bumming me out.
yeah, bummed out, but
Henry by head kick.
no emotions, no emotions, right? So let's go to the co-main event, right? Because I feel like this is a much more
Exciting.
much more fun, exciting matchup. You got Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns coming in both on short notice, 2 weeks, right? And they're gonna go 5 rounds. They're like, hey,
Wow,
we're gonna
boys.
create our own destiny, right? By fighting each other. And this is what you love, man, in this sport, is like when they do put these fights together. And the only reason they're putting this fight together for this card is because Oliveira and Dariush was canceled and rebooked later on in the year. J-Spec, let's start with you, man. What do you see in this matchup?
The fight gods curse us by removing Dariush and Oliveira from our life, at least temporarily. But then they smile upon us and bless us with this great ass match. Dude, I couldn't love this anymore if I tried. Like, this is, we were talking about this issue, and I say the issue being the championship issue of the weight class, blah, 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 blah. And, obviously, Mr. Burns feeling a little disrespected, and all the other storylines that we had really wrapped up in this small group of fighters at this weight class. And man, I'm happy to see this being, like JHK said, like manifesting your own destiny. I don't know if it technically fits like that, but who gives a shit? 2 guys who are gonna make it pretty much undeniable, unarguable. They're gonna stand up in front of all of us. They're gonna fight each other. Somebody's gonna win, and we're gonna have a perfect resolution to the weight class and who's next and who deserves it and all that. It's good, because it was a little ugly and shitty, honestly. I didn't like talking about it already. Now it's like I said, everything's fixed. The rainbows come out and the fight gods are all happy.
Sicko, man, what do you think?
I want to believe the fight itself is going to be great. I'm really excited that this fight got put together. I honestly wish they would both have a full camp. I want to see them both at their best in a 5-round fight. But it is what it is. They had to make it happen. I think both of them, especially Bilal Muhammad, has felt like he has to just go out there and just make it himself and be so undeniable. And I want to believe you, Rob. I want to believe that this answers the question of who's next. I want to believe you that whoever wins this fight, you can't deny it anymore. They took it on each other. They've been active. They've been winning. So whoever wins this should be next for Leon. It ain't happening. Whoever wins this is next after Colby fights Leon. Like, unfortunately, man, I want to see the winner of this get the title shot. Of course we do. We always want to see the people who are earning it, who are active, who are in there, not the person whose last fight was in a restaurant when he got sucker punched by Jorge Masvidal. Like, we want to see the guys who are out there doing what we ask of them, right? Entertaining us and being those warriors. But Colby's just promised, dude. And unlike Sean O'Malley, right? I'm not saying, hey, I can still see a situation, because Dana and these guys haven't really came out and said Sean O'Malley is guaranteed the next title shot. They've been like, yeah, we'll see, like they always do. They didn't say that with Colby. They said 100%. And then when they asked Dana again, he said Colby's next. And every time somebody brings it up, he goes, Colby's next. I don't know what they got. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what kind of behind the scenes stuff is going on, why Colby is promised this spot. And he doesn't even have to fight anybody to get it. But it's going to be Colby next. And then these guys are just fighting for the next spot. So I think whoever wins this, their next fight 100% will be for a title. But after Colby fights.
Boo.
Now, this matchup, though, like, let's talk about the matchup and what we're going to expect out of these fighters. Let's get some of these comments. Mani says, I see him putting a pace on Gilbert and staying away from big shots. Preston, I love how both these guys stepped up, but I see it being kind of a boring as well. Bilal's pace going to be too much. So both guys believe Bilal's pace will be the story of the fight. Like I said, $1,000, you win, you get 10,000. What do you see happening? Let's start with J-Spec first.
Man. Damn. What I really see happening is what I don't want to see happen. I see Bilal winning this fight via a wrestling match. Both guys have shown really good action in that department. Gilbert obviously showing great skills there in so many different ways, and to maybe even counter with a submission that could happen. But most likely, I see Muhammad just taking him down frequently, having to get back up because Gilbert will get back up. And I see both guys working their balls off in a forever marathon type of wrestling match. And yeah, Bilal wins this match by decision. I didn't want to say it, but I did. My heart goes with Gilbert, and my fan that goes with my heart thinks that if there is any snowball's chance in hell for Gilbert Burns to be doing anything great with his career, it has to happen now, and he has to defy the odds. Oh, is he the favorite in this fight? It looks like he's the favorite. So he should do not defy the odds. Go with the odds and beat the guy they expect you to beat.
Sicko, what do you see?
Gilbert Burns by submission. I understand why everyone's saying Bilal's going to put that pace on him, and this is why I had just said earlier, I wish this fight was with a full camp where they're not coming in last minute or it not being 3 rounds. I think Bilal can't do what he usually does. I think he has to be a little more patient. I feel like he has to be a little bit more measured. I mean, he's always measured. I'm not saying Bilal goes in there you're like a wrecking ball and just fucking goes crazy, but I don't think he's going to be able to really set a pace early on. I think he's going to try to pace himself, and then round 3, once you get into round 3 and from 4, then he starts picking it up. But I can see a situation where Gilbert lands a big shot on him. Bilal's force, we talked about it before, where hey, sometimes Gilbert Burns is a bad man on the ground. Sometimes you understand that jiu-jitsu pedigree that Gilbert Burns has, which people sometimes forget because Gilbert loves to throw some power shots. Gilbert loves those overhand rights. But sometimes people forget Gilbert's a bad man when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And I can see a situation where Bilal gets hit, Bilal gets tagged, and he shoots a takedown, and Gilbert ends up in a darce, or they just end up in a scramble where Bilal's forced to give his back. I could see an arm triangle. I could see a RNC. I could see a darce that I said earlier. That's how I see the fight. I don't want to do decisions anymore, man. I got bummed out talking about the main event, about how it's going to be boring and go to a decision. Gilbert Burns by submission. That's what's going to happen. Place your bet. Thank me later.
All right. Bilal Muhammad, man. He's on an incredible run. And one thing about that run is that he kind of sticks to the same game plan. And he just grinds the gears on that and just wears on guys. And I don't think he's taken a short notice fight throughout that whole run. I don't think he has. And that's something interesting to look at as well. You know what I mean? I believe he was training the whole time. I believe he's been working the whole time to be ready whenever the opportunities come. So I don't think he's not prepared. But is he full camp prepared? That's the question.
And coming off of Ramadan as well.
And coming off of Ramadan, I don't know the situation with that. But, people say that, you can't train as hard as you want to in that situation. And I feel Bilal is not going to change anything up because it's been working for him the whole time. He's going to work, he's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to put the pressure on you. He's going to try to grind you down and either win a decision or try to TKO you with volume, right? And I feel like that's what he's going to do. Gilbert knows that. And I think Gilbert's prepared. Gilbert's like one of the most cerebral guys out there, right? He's always ready for everything. And he kind of understands like where you're strong and where he's strong. And I think he learned so much from, which fight he learned so much from is the title fight, where I think he made the most mistakes, is where he went out there and he was just overzealous.
Winging them. Yeah.
Winging them too hard. And he learned so much from that, you know what I mean? And I think that fight was actually really good for him. And I wish that fight would actually happen to him before the title fight, because I think the title fight would have been much different. But anyways, Gilbert, he's ready. He has this massive team behind him as well, right? He's got like nutritionists, SSC coach, like he has a major team around him. I don't know if Bilal has that, right? To get him ready in such a short period of time. But sometimes you don't need that as a fighter, right? Sometimes you just need to train and just step in there and you perform. But I think this is what's going to happen. I think Bilal goes in there and he uses the same game plan, but he's gonna grind himself down. You know what I mean? Gilbert's going to be able to grind with him. You know what I mean? And Gilbert's going to be able to pick his spots. And Gilbert has the power to hurt him. You know what I mean? And I think that is going to be the difference maker on the feet. It's going to go to the ground no matter what. These guys are going to scramble. These guys are going to try to, look for submissions. But I think Gilbert's going to win this fight. And I think Gilbert's going to win this fight in the later rounds. I think this, Bilal's not going to go away easy. I think he's going to go away in like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. I think that's what's going to happen, or it's going to be a decision. But I see the submission as well. I see that Gilbert's going to, he's going to tire him out. He's going to out cardio him.
Oh, this is a 5-round fight. Shoot,
yeah.
My bad. Okay.
Yeah, so, I think it only helps him that he did fight Jorge. And that fight wasn't even a hard fight for him.
No, for real.
If you go back and watch that fight, he didn't really... he didn't take many shots. You know what I mean? No. Like he just went in there and kind of like did what he wanted to do. He just couldn't finish him. And now he's off to the next one. And he's super determined. And he also knows that that this is his time. If he doesn't win this fight, he understands that he has to go to back of line, which means pretty much, it's gonna be hard for him to go for the title again. So he's putting everything into this, right? To getting the title shot, to putting himself in there. I feel like that's mentally, you're in a different place. And I feel Gilbert Burns is going to go out there and do his thing. But it's going to be a crazy fight, man. I hope it's not boring. You know what I mean? Because imagine co-main event and main event, both boring fights. That would be terrible.
I don't think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be a grappling like masterclass that the not grappling inclined fan might bitch about while the rest of the UFC fans go, no, that was great. What do you mean? That's what I think.
If that does happen, Gilbert Burns has a huge advantage because Gilbert Burns has so much experience in ADCC, which is just all grapple, heavy, just super scrambles, everything, and he's excelled in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even if Bilal's scoring takedowns, he's still not safe there.
Yeah, because he's gonna go for submissions. Like he understands, and he's he trains with like one of the best no-gi grapplers in the world, Wagner Rocha?
I mean, even Hamza, right? Hamza was able to take Gilbert down twice and Gilbert got back up. Like he wasn't able to. And we've seen Hamza ragdoll dudes and get submissions quickly. Not against
and Gilbert, I don't think he's gonna fight like that either. He I've done interviews with him. Actually, I did an interview with him a couple days ago for this fight coming up, and I interviewed him before the last fight against Jorge. And his demeanor and like his effort and his like the way he programs everything for his fights now, and he understands he's older, right? He understands like he doesn't have much time. The window is closing, so he cannot make mistakes. And that's a different type of Gilbert, right? He, after that Hamza fight, his wife told him like you can't get into those fights anymore. Like you can't just go in there and try to
kind of forced into that one, man. He's kind of forced into that one. Hamza is a wild boy. You kind of have to.
But he could have stayed back and like kind of like try to play the distance game with Hamza, but he just went in there into the fire and arguably he might have won that fight too. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people would have argued if he would have got the decision winning that one. So, but I don't think we're going to see that. We're not going to see these guys winging crazy punches. And there's so much on the line, dude. So much on the line in this fight. So we'll see, man. I'm excited for it. Anyways, there you go. Everybody, thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you guys go to the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Go follow Sicko at Sicko Sports. Go follow JSpec the host. Go join them in the spaces for all the events. They have a good time over there. And make sure you guys follow me at KoreanJohn_. I changed my tag because I'm not verified anymore, so it doesn't matter. Before I was like verified, they didn't allow me to change my tag for some reason. I don't know why, but now I can, and so I changed it to something not MMA. You know what I mean? Because I'm not just MMA. Like I'm other stuff. I'm a person.
He's more than MMA, folks.
Yeah. So now, if you see me on the ESPN, it says a different tag.
I'm sure they're gonna love Korean John. They're like, yeah, we brought in Korean John.
Yeah, they have to fill in their Asian quota for the diversification.
Yeah,
on the ESPN broadcast.
We got one female Korean. We need a male Korean, and our lineup is set.
Yeah, just on that's their like non-spending ways of putting someone in there. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week to recap this, UFC 288, same time, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, man, you guys hang on, and we'll see you guys.